Okay, look. It is very likely that this isn't the Texans' final 53-man roster. They're probably going to make one or two more moves to, finalize it. There's, some things on this roster that I see that still needs a little tweaking. So, even though it's not the final 53-man roster to go into week one, it's pretty much mostly set. If they're going to make a change, it's going to be like a backup or two. But for the most part, it is set. So, here are my thoughts on the 53-man roster. Starting with quarterback. They're taking two quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson and A.J. McCarron. They placed Joe Webb on IR, so he's out for the season. And the Texans are carrying two quarterbacks into the season. And honestly, I am happy that they're carrying two quarterbacks into the season. I don't think Joe Webb should have got a roster spot. He's a terrible quarterback. Not a good special teamer. A terrible receiver. He's just on the team because he could do all three. And he doesn't do any of them well. And even then, in my opinion, if you're a team that's carrying three quarterbacks, then your third string quarterback better be a rookie that you're planning on developing for the future, like a late round pick type of guy. Okay, now for the running backs. They're carrying four running backs. Duke Johnson, Carlos Hyde, Buddy Howell, and Tywan Jones. Don't have an issue with the first three. I mean, Duke Johnson, obviously, he's starting running back. Carlos Hyde is going to be the running back that's going to kind of give Duke Johnson a breather every now and then. And Buddy Howell, he's your special teams back and can probably get some carries here and there. Then there's Tywan Jones. Why? Why did this guy make the roster over one of the young rookies? It makes no sense. You're risking, because Crockett already went to Oakland in their practice squad. Now, Higdon, he's on our practice squad. I wouldn't be shocked if someone picked him up at some point during the season. You could have him on the roster, but instead you have Tywan Jones taking up a roster spot for pretty much nothing. Now, at the wide receiver position, we have five. DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, Kiki QT, DeAndre Carter, and newly acquired Kenny Stills. And I couldn't be happier with this wide receiver group. I honestly believe that it's the best wide receiver group in the NFL, and I really don't think it's that close. I mean, you got DeAndre Hopkins, easily the best wide receiver in the NFL. You got Will Fuller, the second best deep threat wide receiver in the NFL behind Tyreek Hill. You got Kiki QT, an up-and-coming slot receiver who's going to be one of the better ones in the NFL if he can stay healthy. You got DeAndre Carter, who's a perfect backup for Kiki. And then you got Kenny Stills, who is that perfect guy, to take over if Will Fuller gets hurt. He's Will Fuller insurance. He's obviously not as fast as Will Fuller. His hands aren't as great as Will Fuller's, but Kenny Stills can still burn some people. So very happy with this wide receiver group. And now here is where one of the problems with the roster is, in my opinion. The tight ends. The Texans are currently carrying five tight ends. Jordan Thomas, Jordan Akins, Darren Fells, Kahali Waring, and Jarrell Adams. There is no way that the Texans should carry five tight ends. No. Maybe four, but even then, that's a stretch. You should carry three tight ends if you want to get the most out of your roster. So, personally, I think the Texans should put Kahali Waring on IR and then trade Jarrell Adams for a late round pick in 2021. We just had that blockbuster trade, so we got to find a way to get some picks back. So why not trade Jarrell Adams for a late round pick at some point? And then the offensive line. We're carrying 9 offensive linemen at the moment. Laramie Tunsil, Shantrell Henderson, Roderick Johnson, Titus Howard, Max Sharping, Zach Fulton, Nick Martin, Greg Manx, and Sunil Kilamedi. Those are your 9 offensive linemen, and I'm happy about that. But what I'm most happy about is the guy not on the roster, Matt Kalil. Matt Kalil got cut today. Well, when you're watching this video, yesterday. He got cut yesterday. And I was so happy, popping champagne and all that. Just celebrating, having a good time. So happy Matt Kalil got released. Obviously, Martinez Rankin got traded to the Chiefs for Carlos Hyde, and then Julian Davenport, for whatever reason, got sent to Miami with the Miami blockbuster trade. So, yeah, I'm happy with the offensive line actually showing promise now that we have Laramie Tunsil. Hopefully, Zach Fulton starts at center to really, have our offensive line doing well all season. And then you have on the defensive line, DJ Reader, Angelo Blackson, Brandon Dunn, Charles Omenihu, Carlos Watkins, and Mr. J.J. Watt. Don't have an issue with that at all. I do have an issue with the guy who didn't make the team. And that's Albert Huggins, man. Albert Huggins balled out all preseason long. He was getting pressure from the interior, which is something the Texans really lack. And he didn't make the team. It sucks. But, at least he's on the practice squad. I hope no one steals him from us. Hopefully, he's able to eventually make it back onto the team. And, hey, maybe if Kahali Waring gets IR'd and, what's his name? Gerald Adams gets traded, it's going to open up a few roster spots. So, hopefully, maybe then they bring Albert Huggins onto the active roster. I was honestly really disappointed that we didn't leave him on the roster. And now for, I guess, the outside linebackers. You got Whitney Merciless, Brennan Scarlett, Barkevius Mingo, and Jacob Martin. Now, unfortunately for Davin Bellamy, when the Texans traded away Jadeveon Clowney, Texans are still stupid for that, by the way. When the Texans traded away Clowney, it pushed out Davin Bellamy because they brought in Mingo and Martin. So, yeah, it kind of sucks for Bellamy. I really thought he did some good things. I thought he was going to make the roster, but obviously Mingo and Martin made the team. Now, Markevius Mingo, I wouldn't be shocked if he's cut at some point during the season. Jacob Martin, I continue to hear good things about him. Maybe this season he can be a situational pass rusher for us, and maybe moving forward he can be a decent starter or something. But who knows? And then we got inside linebacker Benardrick McKinney, Zach Cunningham, Dylan Cole, Peter Columbai. Solid group. Those are the 4 that I predicted. Now, they did put Tyro Adams on the practice squad. If you guys remember him, he was the guy that was flying around during preseason game 4, making all the plays. He's on the practice squad, and I wouldn't be too shocked if he eventually gets called up, or if, the Texans trade away Gerald Adams and put Kahali Waring on IR. Maybe he gets brought up. And then at corner, the Texans have J-Joe, Roby, Lonnie Johnson, Aaron Colvin, Xavier Crawford for some reason. I find this one pretty strange because Crawford didn't really do much. And then they got Keon Crozen, the guy that they traded for with New England. They traded a 6th-round pick for him. This guy's a special teams specialist, and he's very, very fast. He's apparently going to be their backup nickel/slot corner, whatever you want to call him. But there is something else. The Texans signed another corner from Miami, Cornell Armstrong, who, by the way, is apparently a very good special teamer too. So, Yeah, we got another special teamer. And someone on this team's going to have to get cut or, traded or whatever, put on IR. So I'm predicting it's going to be one of the tight ends, or maybe even Xavier Crawford gets IR stashed, or maybe even put on the practice squad. And then at safety, you got, of course, Justin Reed, Deshaun Gibson, Jalil Adai, and AJ Moore. I think we're going a little too light there on the safeties. I would really like to carry more safeties than just 4, but like I said in the beginning of the video, it is still very likely that the Texans are going to tweak their roster a bit. So there's still a chance that they'll carry more than 4 safeties. And then the last 3 people on the roster, you got kicker Kaimi Fairbairn, punter Trevor Daniel, and long snapper Mr. John Weeks. No, damn right John Weeks going to make the roster. But yeah, that's pretty much the Texans roster. Aside from the few little things I mentioned here and there, I mean, most of this was already expected. I really don't think there was like any surprise cuts, especially when you consider that, they traded for Kenny Stills. Maybe some people thought that Tyron Johnson and Vincent Smith getting cut was a little bit surprising, but once they traded for Kenny Stills, it made sense. Now, the whole Taiwan Jones running back situation, I mean, Taiwan Jones didn't play in the 4th preseason game. So once they traded for Carlos Hyde, the writing was on the wall for the rookie running backs, unfortunately. I guess maybe the one you could say is surprising, in my opinion, is that Albert Huggins not making the team. But for the most part, most of the players on the roster were mostly expected to make the team. So, yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts on the Texans' current 53-man roster. Comment down below your own thoughts on the Texans roster. And, yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.